First one, we're going to work with fractions today. Sometimes I've got like the fraction 1 over 2, or half. And I don't want to work with that, right? I maybe can't use it because I need a common denominator with 6 or something like that. So instead of 1/2, I make it look different. I don't make it worth different. Okay, it's still this much pizza. But let's make it look like this instead so I can add it to, let's say, 5/6. So let's make it look like 3/6. 3/6 is right here. Do I still have just as much blue shaded? Yeah, absolutely. It's just what? Pie is just cut into smaller pieces. It's renamed. It's the same amount of pizza, but it's renamed. How do I get from 1/2 to 3/6? Do you know? Well, let's see if that's what it tells us about today in this lesson. We know that when we multiply by 1, the product still equals the number we multiplied. So if we multiply 1/2 by 1, the answer is still worth a half of a pizza. This is the identity property of multiplication, stating that if one of two factors is 1, the product equals the other factor. When 1 is a factor, we don't change its value. However, if we multiply a half by something that's equal to 1, see how we're kind of finding a little loophole, right? It's still going to be equal to the original because 1 is equal to that, but we can make things look different by cutting it up. What if we cut it up more? So we cut it into fourths and we eat 2 pieces. We got to eat 2 pieces of the same amount of pizza. We find that by multiplying what's really worth 1. They show with this big shaded 1 to represent that 2 over 2 is still 1. 2 over 2 is worth 1. It's 2 halves, or 1 whole. But if we multiply by that, even though this is still equal to this, it looks different, right? How does 2/4 look different from 1/2? Say easy, right? Different numbers. Yet they're worth the same thing, and it can be easy to forget sometimes that they really mean the same thing. They just look different. Fractions with the same value but different names are called, can you say that word? Equivalent. Basically, same value, but probably don't look the same. And that can be very useful in math, to have the ability to change the way it looks without cheating or changing what it's worth. Let's make a half have the fraction denominator of 20. So you multiply by 1, or 10 over 10 in this case, to get to 20, because 2 needs a 10 to get to 20. 1 times 10 is 10, so 10 over 20 the answer. Make 1/2 and 1/3 able to be added, or use common denominators to go together to become 5/6. We had to go through a few steps to do that. Why don't we do it one more time on one of these practice problems? Letter F says write 2/3 and 1/4 as fractions with the denominators of 12. Let's do the 2/3 and the 1/4 separately. Give yourself plenty of space. Why don't you do this along with me? Go through the motions. 2/3 needs to get to 12. So I like to think of it as, what will I multiply equal to 1 to get there? Remember, we multiply when we want to change the bottom. Adding, we have to keep the bottoms the same. So we need to multiply. Start with your denominator. Start down here. 3 times what, right? It's a missing number problem. Gets me to 12. How about that? This is going to help me get to here, because this all needs to be worth 1. And what fraction with a denominator of 1 will equal 1? Same numerator, of course. 2 times 4 is 8. And you might go, 8/12, reduce it. No, that's not what we do. We just worked to get to the 12th. Leave it. We did that on purpose. What over itself will give me a denominator of 12, or cut into 12ths? Well, using your fraction manipulatives, you could find, I don't know if you have 12ths, but how many 12ths does it take to be worth a quarter? It's going to be 3. 3/12 is the same, is what we're saying, as 1/4. It just looks different We call that equivalent. Now that we've got the 3/12 and the 8/12, it says, don't forget, end the problem, 8/12 plus 3/12 is, remember in adding and subtracting, the denominator bottom number stays. They need to be the same and they stay. But 8 plus 3 is 11. Answer to F. Understand where we got these two from? Renamed 2/3 using 1. Renamed 1/4 using 1. Just makes them look different. Still worth the same thing. Still equal. Fair? Pick 2 from up here. We better do letter E. There's a lot there we can learn from. And H. So 4 total, please.